Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lauren Jackson, and I currently serve as Walker's Legacy City Director for Newark, New Jersey, and I am pleased to serve as your moderator for today's discussion. Named in honor of Madam C.J. Walker, Walker's Legacy was created with the mission to cultivate an ecosystem of access designed to inspire, equip, and engage a global network of professional and entrepreneurial women of color. You can learn more about us by visiting www.walkerslegacy.com. And so the Cowork and Connect virtual chat series is aimed specifically at learning the best practices for remote work, the importance of mentoring, staying sharp while staying in, financial planning for small businesses, and self-care routine tips during this time of quarantine and social distancing. So let's get started with today's program. I am super excited to moderate this program with my city director sister, Miss Rochonda Woodard. Rochonda, affectionately known as R. Renee, is a 15-plus year healthcare and business operations consultant, an executive advisor, speaker, and coach based in Washington, D.C. By day, Rochonda leads quality improvement efforts to hospitals and clinics across the United States undergoing clinical and financial transformation. Rochonda is also the owner of Life Brand Factory, a personal and professional consulting agency designed to empower and develop successful entrepreneurs, leaders, students, and professionals. Rochonda is also the visionary behind quarterly and annual women empowerment programming, such as Girl Talk DC, which is designed to engage women in thought-provoking conversations around business, finance, relationships, and mental health. She serves as the Washington, D.C. City Director for Walker's Legacy and is an acting board member for several nonprofits and small corporations in Michigan and Tennessee. From coaching, speaking, mentorship, and more, Rochonda is a proven yet credible relationship builder who prides herself on successfully bridging brands, businesses, and relationship gaps while connecting the right project with the right people, most importantly, at the right time. So please help me welcome the phenomenal Rochonda Woodard. I think you're muted, Rochonda.
I am. Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
I can let you, if you want to give some opening remarks, you are more than welcome to, or we can jump right in. Just tell me how you want to.
We can jump right in. It's always weird for me to sit here and listen to someone read your bio. So I'm like, oh.
It's the same. Okay, well, let's get into it then.
Yes.
So every entrepreneur has a story, and I know a little bit about it, but I want you to share it with the world and our watchers. Please tell us your journey.
Where do you want me to begin? So, again, by day, I am a healthcare and business operations consultant. I've been doing so for about 15 years. I think the thing that probably stands out the most is when people hear the word entrepreneur, they're like, oh, entrepreneur, you don't have a job. No, I have a job. I've kept a job the entire time until earlier in this year. But I started off in my early 20s, took a leap of faith and left a full-time job to take an 8-week project that turned into this 15-year journey that I've been on to becoming this healthcare and business operation consultant. I've traveled to hospitals all over the United States. But of course, at the same time, I have my entrepreneurial roots have been embedded in me since I was a young kid. Unlike others, I didn't have the lemonade stand, but I would sell you something, okay? Whether it was me selling you a roller set, doing your roller set, or doing your resume, you need me to do your homework, I would do any of that, early on. So I would like to say that I started my entrepreneurial journey a long, long time ago. But of course, like many, I've been working the whole time and just really diving into my passions on the side, so you hear people say their side hustle. So, my side hustle has been helping communities, helping faith-based organizations and entrepreneurs just do better, improve their processes and how they do their business. I didn't necessarily know what to call it when I was, first starting off and really diving into the meat of it all. But when I found out, like, you know what, this is actually more than a side hustle. It's passion. I'm passionate about it. I love helping people. This is actually a business for me. This is a ministry. This is a journey. I just kind of ran at it full throttle, bringing y'all up to speed to current day. Let's just say this last year, of course, being the pandemic year, this would be year 16 in business for me. Like many others, I think people also like to believe that if you have a certain level of job that you are exempt from the unemployment ramifications that is happening globally, and that's not so much true. There's many professionals that have experienced layoffs and furloughs and et cetera. And I just happen to be one of them along the way at the top of this year. And that's something that many people don't know. So, of course, starting off on a high note, yay, I just got this Walker's Legacy City Director role. We're going to do that. I'm coming off of Paris and California and all these other great things for work. And within the same week, I'm canceling events and my job is telling me that we have to cut our resources, literally days, the same week actually of the pandemic, and also the same week of my first Walker's Legacy event that had to get canceled. So it was one of those things. Yeah. So that's kind of what happened up until getting us now. But of course, up until the top of this year. But of course, now booked and busy and running rampant. So.
And yes, you are. Never find you. But all that to say, you said a few things such as it being your ministry and how you've been able to navigate this. Before we kind of go into what the title of this session is, I want to go back to that ministry piece, right? Because I always like to tie that in with purpose. Mm-hmm. And so how have you been able, even in the midst of the pandemic, to stay connected to the fact that, yes, this is my ministry and this is my purpose, when so many people wanted to have walked away actually from things that they know they have been called to do because the pandemic has presented such a difficult time for them?
You know what? Honestly, just remembering the why behind it. I talk about the why all the time. Why it is that we do this, why it is that you've been chosen to do such a thing. And so for me, I never lose sight of that. I know why. I know why I need to push the needle forward for women of color. I know why I need to ensure that other people are effective in their processes and what they're doing and that they're staying motivated to do it. I know what it's like not to be motivated. Mm-hmm. And so because of those things, and I know how it made me feel, I don't ever want anyone else to have to feel that way. And if I know that something that I can do can continue to open the gate for the generations to come behind me, then why would I lose sight of my why or what my ministry or purpose has been, what I'm called to do.
Awesome. I love that. And I think that's a great segue into, so, when you were asked what you want to title this session, you called it Resilient Optimism. Mm-hmm. And the subtext was the key to pushing forward. What was it about that made you want to title it this?
You know what? I titled it this because we're sitting at month 11 of a global pandemic and people were counting down for it to be over. When it started in February, they thought February, March, we thought, hey, it's going to be done in May. When in May got here and we said, by September, this is surely going to be done. Right. And now we sit here in month 11, but you're still here. Mm. You're still working. You're still moving forward. You never stopped moving. You just kept watching the clock, but you never stopped moving. And so that's where that resilient piece came from. I said, I want to talk about resilient optimism because even though we were looking at the clock, we were looking at the timeline to say, hey, when is this going to be over? Most people, if you realize, they never stop moving. There's a lot of people that never stop moving. And so it was the resilience on the inside. And for me, it's been the resilient piece, realizing the losses weren't really losses. They were just things that helped me win later, that prepared me for the wins later.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so it was one of those things where it's one of those things where not only am I resilient because we're in month 11, then we started this in month 2 and 3. So we've made it somewhere. I've come from somewhere, but I'm so optimistic that where we're going, because I made it here, I'm so optimistic that where we're going is going to be even greater.
That the chat is going, that is so good, right?
You know what I mean?
And so it is. So because we talked about you being booked and busy, and like I said, I know that you are, and so you've carried that to say that we're still here. So what are there any strategies that you may have implemented to kind of help you stay focused and help you still get your contracts and still get these consulting opportunities?
You know what, the one thing that works is not, I talked about it a little bit. I shared a really snippet of it yesterday. I shared a little story on my Instagram stories about doing things quickly. And so I let go of things pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. I don't stay there long. It's called the 5-minute pity party. So what's helped me is not wallowing in those moments, and just simply, you got 5 minutes to cry, get it out, feel the feels. But what's next?
Right.
So remembering that it's not really a loss, like basically changing the way I look at loss. So what looked like a loss is always a win to me, because I learned something, and I can take whatever I learned from that and use it to move forward. So that's one thing that has helped me. Another thing that has helped me is, of course, just staying busy, like feeding my mind and my soul, like things. I read a lot. So I'm not the biggest TV buff. I watch some things, but I'm a reader. So I'm going to read. I'm going to act as a sponge. I want to know as much as I can, and I want to know how I can, let that fuel me and motivate me to keep going. So that's been helpful. Forgetting the past. Of course, I said that with that 5-minute pity party, you get to wallow in it and you move on. So I forget the past. I learn what I need to learn, and then I look to the future and staying present. Right. Staying present. I don't get too far. Now, that's one thing. I keep saying future, but I don't get too far ahead of myself. And I dang sure don't. I would almost use the word. I dang sure don't. I dang sure don't stay in the past a lot either. So those things have really, really helped me to continue to remember my purpose and just keep going forward and staying present. Like, what can I control today? Mm-hmm. What can I control today? People get so ahead of themselves sometimes. And I think you can't be optimistic about tomorrow because you're still focused on yesterday, and you have forgot totally about the present and what you can control today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there is a comment that I have to read. Rochonda also helps her friends through those pretty parties. Because, just from a personal experience with you, we've developed our relationship through walking.
Yeah.
No, I'll never forget, and this is a segue. I'll never forget in one conversation you and I had with me, there was one thing you told me that stuck with me, and you told me that you surrender every day before you started. Mm-hmm. And that is something that when I heard it, I was like, ooh, yes, At the time, I think we were having a conversation like, girl, I don't know what I need to do to kind of, and that's what you said. You surrender every day. And I think that's a great practice, especially as we continue to go through this pandemic, because we don't know what each day is going to bring. Yeah. And so, agree, Carla, she really is. You mentioned that you've been reading. Are there any books that you can potentially recommend to any of our women watching or men watching that have been inspiring to you?
So my two books, but the one in particular, because I'm really big, and Carla is like, she's gonna laugh at this too, because I'm really big on emotional and relational intelligence right now. And honestly, I think my relational into the maturity of my relational intelligence has been the thing that really keeps me grounded, keeps me moving forward, keeps me in the right place, at the right time mentally. And so I've been reading Relational Intelligence by Dr. Darius Daniels.
Okay.
It's a really, really good book. And I encourage anybody, and it's professional, personally. I think that book can be life-changing if you allow it. So that's one of the main books that I'm reading right now. And then one of my daily things, and I think me and you both have been doing that, Believe Bigger, the Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans. And this doesn't have to be, and then I know one of my girlfriends, she goes, I'm not trying to evangelize to you, but, and we're not. These are all practical things that you can implement in your daily life, be it a book you read, be it a quote you see in the morning, be it an affirmation, be it a chapter in one book that can change your life forever. And I think relational intelligence has done that, because I'm able to understand, like, not take things personally, and understand my role in certain professional settings and personal relationships that have helped me to be able to network and stay connected and get these additional contracts and essentially get a new position.
Ooh,
You know,
this is a good segue, because I was going to revisit that wonderful bio that we read to begin with.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this new position.
Oh, so I would like to probably preface it with this. I was not going back to work. So when I lost my job, I decided that I was going to take a couple months off. I've been working diligently, sacrificing time with family and things, traveling for the last almost 16 years. And so I said to myself that I was not going to go back to work right away. I was going to take that time and dive into all of my entrepreneurial endeavors and my personal passion projects. Well, I gave myself 3 months of not doing any of that, not really even taking the calls. But this is probably really important too. One thing I like to tell people, when your name is good, people will come for you. And so I wasn't looking for a new position. Someone heard at another organization that I was a part of the leadership staff that was let go during the first round of layoffs. They've since, but this company that I've worked for has since laid off about 5 or different times throughout the pandemic year. So many of people have been let go. So I just think God did me a solid by letting me out early with pay. You know, and so that was one thing. But because of it, we had the healthcare it's big, but it's small.
Yeah.
And so people know your name. And I got a call that said, hey, would you be interested? And I said, I'm not really taking any conversations right now. And they started telling me a little bit about it. And I said, okay, cool. Well, to my surprise, it was a little bigger than what I anticipated. And I got this new role doing the same level of work that I did before. But now I have a different demographics of working with the government and Veterans America, the Veterans Affairs, and making a difference in the way we care for veterans globally. So that's my new role. I'm a federal engagement owner and advisor to veteran hospitals around the United States and Alaska.
That's amazing. And I think you hit something on the head when you said, when your name is good, right? And I think through Life Brand Factory, you do a lot of coaching on how people can build their personal brands. And that's something during this pandemic that I think a lot of people have pivoted to start to work on. So what are some tools that people can do now to start building their brand? Because who knows how long we're going to continue to be in this space? Like, what can you give us for that?
The first thing that I would tell people to do, honestly, is to figure out what it is you want to do. Don't just do it just to do it. See, I'm not your typical coach. So I'm not the coach that you want to come to if you don't want to hear the truth. And so, you know, people pay for people to agree. And I'm not the coach that you want to pay just to simply agree with you if you want to be effective and impactful in the work that you do. So I like to always preface the coaching that I do leads to that personal brand being built and, you know, diving into your goals and dreams. But I start with the inside, with the internal side of the house, meaning, do you know what matters most to you? Are you truly doing something that your heart is in that you really want to do? So the first thing I would advise anybody to do is to decide. The first thing starts with the decision.
Yeah.
So decide. You're going to decide what you want to do. Decide what you want to do and be committed to that. The second thing I would tell people to do is to be in relationship with other people. I am I get so upset with the whole notion of, and I talk about this often too, the notion of no new friends, the notion of, oh no, I can't share this, or I can't share that, or I don't need anybody. You know, everybody wants the struggle story of, I did this on my own, or, you know, I started this from the ground up by myself. And honestly, you need somebody. Everybody needs a coach, a therapist, a sponsor, an advisor. There are things you need. So my second thing that I would tell people is to get yourself a mentor, get yourself a coach or an advisor, and get yourself a sponsor. So who's going to talk well of you when you're not present?
Yeah. You are just dropping all the gems.
Stop it.
So the first thing is we need to decide. And I don't
Decide.
know if you label this as number 2 though, but like you also threw the word in commit there.
Yep.
And I know for me, like 2019, how everybody's like, you pick a word of the year. So commit was my word for 2019. But during the pandemic, things a little, now that we're in 2020, things have shifted. How do you commit when all, for lack of a better word, hell seems to be breaking loose? How do you stay committed?
How do you stay committed when all hell is breaking loose? I want to tell you what I said. I said the same exact words about that just recently. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second because I want to make sure that I include that since you took the words out of my mouth. So how do I stay committed when all hell is breaking loose? I'm gonna tell you how I do it, and then I'm gonna tell you how you should do it. So how I do it is, you know how Issa Rae, and it's funny. You know how Issa Rae talks to herself in the mirror?
Yes.
I call it mirror talk. Offline, we call it something else, but it's mirror talk. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you have to talk to yourself. You got to hype yourself up. You got to remind yourself of every single thing that had every win, every time you persevered before. Everything, like just remind yourself. I know me and you talked about it before. You and Gabriel talked about it, about what you remember. And so I always tell people, you got to remember the stuff that you won. Remember the times when it was worse than it is today. So I always remind myself of those times where I thought it was bad and I won. Those times where, it looked a little bleak and it's not even as bleak as this. And I persevered, So one thing is reminding myself and that keeps me committed. But honestly, what keeps me committed is that why still, like, encourage yourself, of course, yes, Carla, but reminding myself of my why, reminding myself of when I won before, and then also like literally getting to a point where losing is not an option. Like when you will remain committed when you realize that losing is not an option. Like I can't fail. You know what I'm saying? Like once you remind yourself of that thing, once it's all about how you respond too. So I stay committed because I never want to respond badly. So when I wrote, and I was trying to look at what I wrote and I couldn't find it yesterday, someone asked me something very similar about staying, like, how do I move when all hell's breaking loose? I said, it's easy to stay committed when everything's going well. It's easy to talk positive when everything's going well, but the challenge and the strength lies in you when you decide to speak well when things are wrong.
Speak well when things are wrong.
So you get what I'm saying? So it's like if we're always, oh yeah, girl, go, you can do this, da 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 da, even when it's bad. You ever realize when it's bad and you ever been feeling bad and had to encourage somebody else?
Yes.
And then it ends up encouraging you because you spoke well.
There you go.
Speak well.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Speak well. Like find something. Like remember, like it does not matter if your attitude, how you treat people, your response when things are wrong, all of that. Because somebody's always watching.
Yes.
So if that doesn't keep you committed, I don't know what else will.
Rochonda, girl, you are giving the gems today. I cannot wait for this playback.
I'm just saying.
No, but it's true, right? And I think especially that part of when you have to encourage somebody else when you're going through, that's a hard at times. And when you are working with people, and particularly with you as being a coach, you're working with people who may have lost their job, and you're thinking, girl, I got laid off too, right? You're working with people who have lost contracts and things like that, and you were experiencing the same thing. And so both of you are on the same journey at the same time, but it's like, how do you respond to it?
Yeah. And so I have to respond well, because I'm still an example. I'm still a vessel. Somebody else is still watching me and their strength is going to come from me winning. So you know how they tell you, if you feel bad, go serve somebody.
Yeah.
If you feel bad, go volunteer at a community center
Yeah.
or go do something like that, because it could be worse. It could be worse. And so my commitments come from somebody's watching, and I owe it to myself and others because it's bigger than me.
It's bigger than you. That's so true. So now for you, as we are in the end of the year of 2020, right? We are beginning to wrap up this year. People are starting to make plans for 2021. How do you intend to finish this year strong?
Oh, it's all gas, no brakes. That's, for lack of better words, it's all gas, no brakes. I have a motto that I probably established many years ago, and I know you probably hear it in different settings, and people say finish strong, finish strong, finish strong. But what that means to me is doing it for me. I do so much for other people. So I've committed to doing these last 6 weeks of this year for me. So my workouts for me, preparing my calendar for Q1 for me, because those things that I do for me now are going to benefit myself and others later, just because I'm going to be prepared.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be rushed. I'm not going to feel the pressure and anxiety of not being able to get a thing done. And if all hell breaks loose in January, I'm prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If this thing stays exactly where it is, I'm still prepared. So just diving into everything that the year promised me that it may not have even given me, I'm still going to try my hand at it, push the envelope. If it bounces back like that little toy, the little toy that people hit and it bounces back up, if I throw something out there and it bounces back, I'm just going to throw something else out there, because eventually something else is going to stay and it's going to roll. So I'm at least going to try. Yeah. So finishing strong for me is at least trying everything that I have left on this list of mine to finish, and doing it well.
Awesome. And now, so I want to throw in this last question, and before I get to any questions we may have in the chat. So if there's anything that anybody wants to know, please, whatever platform you're watching, please put the questions in there. But so I know you, and I know you do a lot of running around for work. You have your businesses, you have these things. How have you, and you kind of touched on it, but I want you to kind of spell it out a little bit more. The target buzzword of 2020 has been self-care. Mm-hmm. How do you practice, even in the midst of being booked and busy, because life is still happening? Mm-hmm. And I know you're going to do these last 6 weeks for you, right? Mm-hmm. In the midst of this all, what have you done to check in with yourself?
So many people wouldn't believe it, because they think, oh, Rochonda's such an extrovert and she's always likes to be out and this and that. I'm really more of an ambivert. I like both. And so what I've done for me in terms of my self-care is knowing when to sit down, taking the time. I power down. So when I say I power down, I power down. I'm homeless at about 6 o'clock, hair tied up, robe on. I literally power down. You know what I mean? That I have learned that people would like to say, oh, don't limit self-care to bubble baths and candles. Well, those are things that I love. Yeah. So I will, if I get a chance to, I don't care what time it is. I don't limit it to 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, weekends. No, I will take a bubble bath and light a candle at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if I have the time. And so I tend to create moments like that of peace for me. My peaceful moments come from quiet time, downtime, whether it's just me. I'm not I say I'm not a TV watcher. So on the days that I have downtime, what do? I create this moment. My self-care moment is taking a bubble bath, lighting some candles, getting myself together. Watching a movie is self-care for me sometimes, because it gives me an opportunity to focus on something other than all the stuff that's been on in my mind. And so that's one thing I do. Another thing, I like getting up, walking in the morning, and I know it's a part of my daily routine, but it's also self-care for me because it's another quiet space. So you see the trend there for me is just creating quiet moments. I know there's a lot of moms that are often watching, and I know me and my sister joke about it, the power of going to sit in the car. So for some of the moms, go sit in the car. Like whatever it is, I don't think we have a true definition of what I think self-care is subjective to the person.
Right.
And whatever it is that you decide that self-care moment needs to be for you. So for me, if it's the bubble baths, the candles, and sometimes it's just picking flowers and minding my business in home goods, because that's just what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doing the things that I like to do, you know, and just really chilling out. I can show you how to chill.
That is amazing. And everything you have said, because like, I know you're not paying me to say this. I know it to be true about you.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm just so grateful that you have been able to share this journey with whoever is watching or whoever will watch the playback, because you are indeed resilient optimism personified. That is you. And so I appreciate that. And so I don't see any questions that have come in, but is there any last words you may want to leave the people as we all begin our transition period?
I would just encourage anybody who's listening to choose what your strong finish is going to look like. Remember that you've been resilient before, and to be optimistic about the future costs you nothing.
I love it. It costs you nothing. Well, Rochonda, thank you so much for this one.
Thank you for having me here.
How can the people find you?
I am on Instagram, iRenee32, Facebook, Life Brand Factory finally has a page. After 12 years, they coerced me into getting a Facebook page for Life Brand Factory. So I finally started a page for that. I'm on LinkedIn, Rochonda Woodard, and my website, www.lifebrandfactory.com. Hit me up. There's a life blog out there every week. Every Monday, there's a new blog to give people inspiration for their week. And just, you guys can hit me up. I'm always here. I'm always willing to chat.
Thank you so much. And so, just to wrap up for everybody watching, Walker's Legacy program looks to bring you insight, meaningful conversations. And I would think we all agree that this is what we did this morning with Cowork. I see Carla says she is encouraged today, as am I. And we hope to see you for our next weekly Cowork and Connect. It happens every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Also, look out for events, albeit virtual, happening in your city. And as always, visit us at www.walkerslegacy.com for our latest and greatest activities. So I wish you all a wonderful day, a happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving holiday next week. And take care, everyone.
Thank you, guys.